Everyone try to
Yes,
speak into the microphone.
Right in the microphone.
Okay.
What'd you say?
First up is the approval of agenda. Do I have a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I move the approval of the agenda.
Second.
If I may, I've sent an email about a couple of potential items. Number one, the governor made an announcement today. If we were to move the June meeting to June 8th, which would be the second Monday, gatherings of 50 will be allowed at that time, and we could have a regular board meeting. If it's the board's pleasure, maybe adding that as an action item to discuss. And then secondly, I did not have to use the authority to hire without board voting this past month, and neglected to put that on the board agenda. And if it's the board's pleasure to add that as an action item as well for hiring authority between now and our June meeting.
So that would be 4B and 4C.
Okay, I'll amend my motion and include those two.
Second.
Okay.
So right now the order's in place till June 10th. Is he opening it up?
He's opening up businesses, possibly phase one starting next Friday. There'll be a 3-week phase one, which will take us past June the 1st, which is our next scheduled board meeting. But phase two allows crowds or gatherings of 50, up to 50 people. And so if we move that board meeting, the June 10th would not be lifted, but I think the phase reopening of businesses would be, and gatherings of up to 50 would be open by that time.
So we could move the meeting to June 10th.
I'm sorry, June the 8th, which would be, the Monday following.
June 8th. And then the second item, I'm sorry.
Was just for the superintendent to have hiring authority between now and the next scheduled board meeting.
We had a motion and a second already for those. Ms. Jones?
Mr. Almus?
Yes.
Mr. Cameron?
Yes.
Mr. Foster?
Yes.
Mr. White?
Yes.
Mr. Fletcher?
Yes. And those items would be C and D.
B and C.
B and C, action items, I'm sorry. Do not have my computer tonight on my paper. We already, okay, next is approval of agenda. We had a motion and a second.
And
In a vote, she just called me.
Oh, I thought we were voting on the
That was
the additions.
we'll do that before B and C.
Okay. All right, next item is superintendent's report.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, and anybody who is following online, it sounds very odd for me to be telling you just how busy our staff is considering our current circumstances. However, providing resources for remote learning, ensuring that our students are fed, and taking care of normal issues has certainly presented a whole new mindset about how we do our work. I look forward to returning to normalcy, but in a way that incorporates all that we've learned over the last few weeks to make our division better than it has ever been before. I'll also tell you that Gary is leading a new committee that will provide guidance for our return to school. As we start to talk about a return to school in the fall, 3 options are currently being considered not only in Bristol but at the state level. A normal return where students would return to in-person classes as normal in August. A remote return, so in other words, we would start the school year just as we are now, providing remote instruction. The only difference in that point would be is that students would earn grades for the work that they're doing at that time. And then finally, and probably the most likely, is a hybrid approach where portions of our student body would return on different days. And so, for example, students with last names A through F may come on Mondays, and G through L may come on Tuesdays, and work your way through the alphabet. And the days they're not in school, they would continue with remote learning. Looking at COVID-19 patterns currently in the Commonwealth, it looks like that's probably the most likely. but Gary and his committee have already begun work to prepare us for that, so that regardless of how we start in August, we're ready to roll. So we'll keep you updated as the summer goes on. As you probably know, this is Teacher Appreciation Week. We're blessed with some of the best teachers anybody could ask for. It is also School Cafeteria Week. We had our School Lunch Heroes last week. We have School Nurse Day coming up. School Counselor and Principal Week have already been celebrated. We have extraordinary employees in all of our departments, and I hope that all of our teachers know just how appreciated they are by their superintendent, their school board, and by our community. If you've not had an opportunity to reach out to our teachers, I'd certainly hope that you have an opportunity to do that sometime this week. Speaking of school nutrition, you probably saw the statistics that we released last week. Since March 17th, our cafeteria staff, our transportation department, and some of our aides have ensured that over 56,000 meals have been served to children in our community. That is a tremendous effort by all of those staff members who are involved with that, and I'd like to send a shout out to them as well. I think you also know that we've been having some facility issues. Let me give you some updates on that. Our vestibule and restroom projects, COVID-19 has affected some material acquisition. We hope to have that all squared away, and with all those projects to be completed by June 1st. In regards to the Washington Lee sinkhole, the sinkhole has been filled, and the guttering system there was a part of the reason that we had the sinkhole, in addition to some caves in that area, was the underground storm drain system had been I guess, eroded or fallen away. And so we've reattached, we've added new additional downspouts, and we've attached those downspouts to the storm drains. We did that on the front side of the building and the back side of the building. Beginning this week, I think on Wednesday, a geotech is coming in, and we'll start doing core drilling there to make sure that we know about the substructure below Washington Lee, and we'll also be doing some crack monitoring. Some cracks have appeared in the exterior and the interior of the building, and so there's actually a device that will measure if those are indeed growing. So we'll keep you updated on that as well. The Virginia High School pool, the leak has stopped, and it stopped right below the seam where the deep end meets the shallow end. That should be a very easy repair. Another option for that, though, would be to put in a 15-year warranty liner. That would guarantee there are no leaks and would come complete with the lanes already embedded in. However, that is much more expensive than us making those repairs and doing the paint, hiring somebody to come in and paint those lanes as well. But that is another option to consider. One of the things to consider as we're making that decision is next year the roof is scheduled to be replaced on top of the Virginia High pool already. Part of that includes an atrium. That atrium is over top of the deep end, and the atrium is in really bad shape. I know some of you have been over there and toured that already. But in order to replace the atrium, the water has to be out of the pool. So if we don't do the roof work now while the pool is empty, we'll be filling that pool up, which is somewhere between 400,000 and 500,000 gallons, we estimate. And we would have to drain the pool again and then refill it back up after we did the work next year. So I think it is in our best interest to at least consider replacing that roof 1 year ahead of what it is on the capital improvement plan. The problem is the original estimate, we haven't put it out for bid yet, but the original estimate is about $350,000 to replace that roof. We would not be putting in a full glass atrium. We would be putting some windows in that area and then putting a roof over top of those windows to allow natural light in. I've also asked the architects, if we do decide to put it out for bid, to bid it that way, but also to bid just a straight roof and take the lighting feature out of it. Because the lighting feature is a large, the windows, the light, natural light is a large portion, about $100,000. The roof is about $250,000. And the roof over the deep end with the windows is about another $100,000. So we're also asking for an estimate of what it would be just to put a straight roof. Obviously, that is a pretty big expense. We have it on our capital improvement plan for next year. Anyway, I'm gonna ask Tammy if she can to pull up the PowerPoint that I have for this slide to show you the condition on the outside of the roof. I know that y'all have seen the inside of the pool roof and that atrium and the water issues that we're having there. If you go ahead and start that, Ms. Jones. As you can see, part of the roof is you can see is separating there, and if you look between those cracks where Tammy's mouse is, you can actually see the tennis court through where the roof has a crack there. And if you look over to the right of the screen, you can see there are holes like that in the rubber membrane of the roof. I'm not sure if that's Bill's hand or not, but anyways, that's just pulling away from that hole so that you can see that. Go to the next slide, Ms. Jones. As you can see, the drain spouts there are issues there as well. You can see the rubber membrane is coming away from the wall in many places where the roof attaches to another portion of the building. Next slide, Ms. Jones. And then, as you can see, that's another issue there. If you look at the guttering, around that guttering, you can see continued issues with rubber membrane. That is true across the entire portion of that roof, which is why that we have it listed to be replaced at this time. This is the second roof that has been on that pool. You can put one roof surface on top of another, but because we have already done that, the only option is to pull this roof off and start fresh. And so, there are other places on the roof where we can do the work cheaper, but because this is we've already done a second roof here, the only option we have is to pull the old roof off and start again. And then the picture on the right is the atrium from the outside. Those glasses, as you probably know, the windows are supposed to retract so that you can have open air there. Mr. Alvis, you could probably say better than I. It's been a long time since those
I don't ever remember seeing them work.
And so we have that malfunction issue as well, but on the inside you can really see the issues with deterioration. We haven't found anybody that's brave enough to go out and check the frame on that glass. It's a long drop from there down to the deep end of the pool. There are some other places where that part of the building connects with the old gym. As you know, we're replacing windows there. There have been some broken windows in the old gym, and when that glass has failed, the glass has also punctured the rubber membrane roof. So, that roof is definitely going to have to be replaced next year. Tammy is currently working up our numbers to see what our capacity is to work on that roof this summer. It very well may be that if we decide to go in that direction, we would have to ask City Council to chip in as well, because part of the capital improvement plan for next year would be a portion of what they would cover. I would love to hear your thoughts about the pool roof and give me any direction that you think I should take. We are ready to put it out for bid. We don't have to take those bids once we receive them, but we are ready to put it out for bid.
Didn't you say that, or did I read somewhere that the city was pushing to get the pool fixed?
No,
Did
sir.
I get an email or something about Mr. Eads talking about that?
No, sir. We have received one email from a city council member that said that the pool is not a priority because of the current situation that we're in. But I've not received any correspondence from the city to say that we need to move forward with this.
I thought I'd seen something from somebody, but that roof probably, I think, worked for about 3 years, and then it just sort of wouldn't open anymore, and there was never money to fix the roof, the sliding roof thing on the atrium.
The louvers.
Yeah. Do y'all remember it when you were there? You worked at the pool. Do you ever remember it being open?
I didn't work at the pool. I remember it first opened, but I didn't work there. Cindy would remember probably the last time they worked, but she's been there since it opened. So.
Because I know that they used to work, but I know that we had to replace that seal in the 90s, right after I got on the board, I think. Is there any kind of a schedule thing? Because, we changed personnel several times when warranties run out and so on. You mentioned a warranty. Is there any sort of a schedule that we look 20, 25 years ahead?
We're not that far ahead. We do have, I think we have 7 years on the next 7 years on our capital improvement plan, and I can resend that list of projects to you again.
And if they do this repair on the pool now, have they given you an estimate about how long that's gonna last?
Well,
Since
we've
this
heard,
is the second time.
what are you talking about for the pool roof?
No, I'm talking about the drains and all that stuff.
Talking about the seal.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have Mr. Buckles available. We know that if we put the liner in, it's a 15-year warranty, so it would be covered for 15 years. We've talking to pool experts. We have heard different stories that the seals need to be recaulked every year, every 5 years. I think it's been 10 or 11 years since they've been recaulked. We've had different estimates of how often it should be recaulked. But it's pretty evident. We were afraid we had issues with the piping underneath the pool, but it stopped just right below that seam. So it was very clear that that's
No,
where it should.
what I'm talking about is like, so is there a schedule 15 years from now, check the liner?
Well, if we were to purchase the liner is pretty expensive.
Would there be, I mean, can
Yes,
we work on that?
absolutely. That would be part of our capital improvement.
It's like when you were talking about the gutter guards up there and they have a life of, 7 to 10 years. Somebody may not be here in 7 or 10 years to remember that.
Yeah, so we will be adding pool maintenance now that we didn't know this issue existed. Obviously, Mr. Buckles was not here the last time that
No, he
we
wasn't.
resealed that pool, so he wouldn't have known that it needed to be done. I didn't know that there were even seals in the pool. But now that we know that it's there, we will find out the right time frame and make sure that's on our to-do list every 2 years or 4 years, whatever it may be.
Well, that's what I just want to make sure that we have some kind of a list like that, because like you didn't know, but I didn't know who was the superintendent.
Well, it should be on a planned maintenance or preventative maintenance schedule.
Yes, and it has not been, but it is going to be.
When you say, going back to the roof, when you say next year, are you talking about July, August, you talking about this summer?
Right, it will. It would not have been done this summer. It would have been done out of $22. But that is, we've desegregated our capital improvement list to issues that we'll take care of and fund from the school system side, and then we've also have a list of things that we hope the city will help us out with, and that roof is on for next year with city assistance. And so whether we do it in 2021 or 21-22, we're close enough to 21-22 now that we would stay on track if we did it over the summer. But really, that pool is used a great deal. I don't know how often, if folks really realize how often the pool is used, but for it's open to the public. It's also open for swim lessons. It's also open for CPR training. Our swim team trains there. We also have an arrangement with King College for their swim team to use it, and the list goes on and on and on.
I know the best case scenario would be do the whole roof at the same time. Can they fix the atrium separately? I mean, if we could find funds to do the atrium this year while the pool's drained, and then do the
That's good. I haven't looked at it.
and do the membrane next year, and we won't have to drain the pool. I mean, while it's drained, we need to paint it and seal it. I mean, because last time that was done my youngest son was a senior. That's 10 years ago, because he had his picture made on the side of the deep end with the paw prints. So that's the last time it's been drained all the way. And if we could fix the atrium while it's down, then we do the membrane next year. I know the best case to do it all the time, but if we could take care of the major problem.
That's a great point. Tammy, is Bill available? We have Mr. Buckles on hold
Okay.
here. I don't want to.
I got a question about kind of the same thing while he's available.
All right. It looks like Bill's froze up.
He's asleep.
That's Bill's his back.
Okay,
Bill,
we can hear you, Bill, we just can't see you.
Bill, did you hear the question from Mr. Alvis?
I was curious about the pool roof. The atrium is the big issue right now as far as fixing it while there's no water in the pool. I know the best case scenario to fix the roof would be the membrane and atrium all at one time, but is there a possibility to just fix the atrium this year if we could come up with the funds to do that and then re-roof next year?
Well, that's a good question, Mr. Allen. I think, that would be possible if we approached it a different way. We put those windows in, redo the atrium, and then try to patch what leaks we have, then go back next year with the roof. I think it is a scenario we can do.
And so if that
Yeah.
project alone is what the estimate is, that would be about $100,000 instead of the full 350.
Right.
Great point, I hadn't thought about attacking it that way, Mr. Evans, thank you.
Now, this is just fixing the atrium, this is not the motors and all that stuff to move.
No,
We're done with that.
I think we're done with that.
But that,
So it's
that,
just gonna be I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
It's just gonna be more or less a facade, it's not gonna open or shut.
Right, it would be windows on the side, so the windows would be the wall, and then we would have a roof above the windows.
could we see a picture of that again?
I saw a picture of that. I understand that. My question, if the atrium part is not used now, and if natural light is not, I mean, we're talking about possibly just doing a solid roof across that hole. Is there something we could do to the existing structure of the atrium right now to just blacken the windows and just seal up that without building a new part there? I didn't know.
I don't
Putting
think so,
film on
it is,
the paintings or?
it's a, and I'll be happy to take you guys up, I've seen the pictures from the top,
Yeah.
but I've seen what it looks like from the inside.
Right, I have to
I'm not so sure that,
I don't know that you wanna touch that glass.
yeah, it's,
even keep that
Can you get a
structure.
picture of that back up on the screen, please?
That's what I was wondering with it, if, you really don't need the natural light, why should we even put another atrium or any type of deal in there that's gonna cause us problems possibly down the road again, and just,
I don't know that we don't need natural light. I mean, I think if we were to do a straight roof, we'd probably add some windows in the sidewalls. I think having light come into that area would be beneficial for sure. It's just, I don't know that we need a sunroof. I think the idea for this was it could be an indoor-outdoor pool when it was done originally.
Yeah, I think that's the thing that, I mean, the light is nice in the pool. I mean, it's not on this scale, but when we built our back bay at the shop, the top 3 feet of it is just clear panels around, and you'd be surprised the light and how much it helps light up, just having a 3-foot panel around the top of the building. So, I mean, it definitely would help with, with lighting in there. I don't know, I think the whole thing, it was supposed to open up and get fresh air and vent, and the whole deal, and that's not what's
Was that flooring smell
will
in the
that-
summer, they wanted that to go out through the roof, but isn't that fiberglass thing, like we have in the old gym, the upper part of the windows? Isn't that a fiberglass, it never could see those through the windows.
right.
It's just plastic, fiberglass, whatever.
There's some screen on the inside of the glass that prevents you being able to see the sky unless you open the windows, which we're unable to do.
Anybody
But
ever
it does
cleaned
let
that?
light. What's that?
Has anybody ever cleaned that?
Not that I'm aware of.
Is that structure needed for ventilation for the pool area? I mean, is that what its original intent was?
Originally, that was it in the summertime, the chlorine smells and stuff, I mean, just to opening doors.
I don't think it's needed for ventilation. Ms. Jones, I sent you a copy of the architect's drawing via email if you want to throw that up on the screen very quickly. Mr. White had asked to see that.
and with that being said, with these windows that we're putting the roof on, will that be able to be open?
I don't think that's part of the design currently. It's just windows
It's just
to allow light, natural light in.
Are there exhaust fans in the pool area?
Something down in the end, isn't there?
I'll have to ask Mr. Buckles on that.
I don't know if it's working.
I don't think they're,
I don't know. I'm scared to death of water. When I go into the pool up there, it's up in the crow's nest up there. I don't go down in there, so I don't know.
So that's,
Right.
so there'd be a roof on top of the windows on the side. I have not received the estimate from Thompson and Litton about just doing a flat roof. That could drastically reduce the cost if we decided that windows were not done. We can also, Mr. Alvis, as you suggested, get it quoted just to do, the atrium, and I think they call it something else.
Is this is a clerestory window,
So that's just one side?
but that's not what we have now.
Now we have
Yeah, but we're talking about taking that and putting in a clerestory, is that why we have
right,
this?
putting that over top of it, yes. That's the way currently it would be put out for bid. They're adding to take that, the windows out, just doing a flat roof. And with Mr. Alvis's, direction or question, I think we can also see what it costs just to do the windows this year, maybe do the roof later.
That's a smart move.
Okay, that's a great idea.
Celestary windows.
Well, I think this is something we need to tackle and take care of. I mean, it's a priority as far as I'm concerned. It's no different than, we have to repair the football field somehow, or we need to repair the basketball court somehow. The swimming pool is just as important as those other things, our kids use. So I think that's definitely something we need to look into. I mean, we're not gonna say that one kid is any different than the other one just because he plays a different sport. So let's go forward with it, I think.
Yes, sir.
Well, it's a big, as far as I'm concerned, it's a community center in the summertime. I see kids walking from Johnson Court and everywhere up there every day, spending the day to swim.
All right, the only thing that I would add to my report, Mr. Chairman, is that we are working on plans for graduation. We're trying to finalize those details, but stay tuned for a very exciting announcement. And that's all I have.
Okay.
All right.
Mr. Chairman,
Sure.
thank you and Mr. Ritchie for, I was going to ask earlier, but now I've seen it in your report that this back to school thing. Do we have any parents on that, or have we reached out to any to maybe kind of get their opinion on?
We have not yet. We had a meeting today talking about remote learning, and that is as far.
6 feet.
So we've had 2 meetings talking about remote learning. We haven't talked any yet about the 2 different other options where students may be coming to school, like an A day and a B day, or students coming to school, all students coming to school. Of course, there will be a lot of measures that will have to be in place. But right now we are attacking the remote learning so we can get that started now, because we know that will take considerable time to build.
Well, I know the state's got a task force, and I just think that as many people that we've got with different backgrounds on it, that we can probably get more ideas on how we're going to go to adjust back into school this year. But thanks for spearheading that.
Mr. Foster, I will tell you that today, some of our families do not have internet at home, and we had hotspots on back order. And so I went with some of our staff today to deliver those hotspots because they came in over the week or late last week. And I can tell you, we do have a lot of parents who would be very interested in being on that committee, because I think they're really ready for other students to come back to regular school.
They're for normal opening.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay. Item 3 is the consent agenda. Do I have a motion?
Make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Ms. Jones?
Mr. Alvis?
Yes.
Mr. Cameron?
Yes.
Mr. Foster?
Yes.
Mr. White?
Yes.
Mr. Fletcher?
Yes.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, I'll just add that we will have several months of minutes to approve once we come back. We're in these meetings, we're only supposed to do business that keeps us afloat. where it deals directly with COVID-19, and I did not feel that minutes were part of that, so we've left that off. You approved the annual plan and payment of bills, which those are very critical to the day-to-day operations.
Sure. Thank you.
Yeah, and I'm hats off to Dr. Nebrisian. Yeah, whatever. Dr. Megan for her hard work and her staff on that special ed annual plan. As always, I'm on that special ed committee, and I know the hard work that they put into it. So kudos to them in that.
She's smiling really.
Yeah, we had Megan on the line in case anybody had a question.
Okay. Next up is the action items. 4A, approval of closure of school construction bank account.
Mr. Chairman,
Sure.
if you've ever heard me opine or read one of the op-eds that I've written over the last several years about the state taking part in helping fund school facilities, you'll know that back up until 2009, the state provided school divisions with a pot of money that they could use for school facilities and construction. When the recession hit in 2009, that pot of money was taken away and it's never been restored. That was money that you could carry over, and we had put some money in a pot up until that point. And we gradually spent it on this project or that project over several years. And we just this past year depleted that state money that we had been working through since 2009. I think one of the big ticket items was a $60,000 chiller at Virginia High School, and that completed the fund. We no longer need that fund, so we're going to close that account. With the new legislation that state revenue from the casino, if that were to be approved locally, or actually in any other locality, we would start getting some of that money again. So we might need to open an account like this back up. This account was specific though because it had to be escrowed. And we don't have any idea whether they'll need an escrow with this new school construction fund, or even the new school construction fund we even passed via referendum. So it's our recommendation that we close this account. If we need to open one back up in the future, we can do that.
Was there a balance?
It'll be zero.
Okay. Do I have a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to approve the closure of the school construction bank.
Second.
Any discussion? Ms. Jones?
Mr. Alvis?
Yes.
Mr. Cameron?
Yes.
Mr. Foster?
Yes.
Mr. White?
Yes.
Mr. Fletcher?
Yes. Item 4B is to move our June school board meeting to June 8th versus
June 1st.
June 1st.
I make the motion that we move our school board meeting to June the 8th from June 1st.
Second.
Any discussion?
Since that's my last meeting, is it optional?
We've got a special surprise. Ms. Jones?
Mr. Alvis?
Yes.
Mr. Cameron?
Yes.
Mr. Foster?
Yes.
Mr. White?
Yes.
Mr. Fletcher?
Yes. Item 4C is to approve the Dr. Perichin's hiring authority until the
June 8th.
June 8th.
Mr. Fletcher, I did not use that authority this month. All of the jobs that we offered to new teachers for next year, they were not in a hurry to make sure that they were officially hired, and they could wait on board approval to do that. May not need to use it again next month. However, we did receive a resignation today for a science position at the high school, and those are often hard to come by. Teachers with that credential, I very well may need that authority this month. Obviously, if I need to use it, I will contact the board before we make an official offer. So that's the request.
Do I have a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to give the superintendent authority, hiring authority for the month of May. Till the next meeting.
Second.
Discussion. Ms. Jones?
Mr. Alvin?
Yes.
Mr. Cameron?
Yes.
Mr. Foster?
Yes.
Mr. White?
Yes.
Mr. Fletcher?
Yes. Okay, item 5, presentation, discussion of 2020-2021 school board budget.
Yes, Mr. Fletcher,
Yes.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board. As you know, a couple weeks ago, all department heads of the city were asked to reduce their budget requests in order to make sure that the city was able to function appropriately during the fiscal year 2020-2021. We also, about the same time, found out that we were going to have a reduction in state funding of about $450,000. If we would have followed the percent request that was made by the city, it would have been an additional $1 million. That amount would have taken us below the amount that the state requires the city to fund schools, so we did not meet the full 15% request that was made by the city. And again, keep in mind that what I'm getting ready to share with you is that this is in addition to $450,000 that we are going to have in reduction from the state based on the original budget that you approved earlier this year. And also keep in mind the items that we talked about earlier, the sinkhole at Washington Lee and the issues at Virginia High's pool. We also now have a bad chiller at Stonewall Jackson that we also need to replace. We're looking between $40,000 and $60,000 for the estimates that we have on those as well. So we've got a lot of capital items on top of these budget issues that we're dealing with. So keep in mind that this year, according to the state, the required local effort that the city has to provide is almost $6 million, $5,961,000. For fiscal year 2022, the following year, the next budget cycle, that amount goes up to $6.3 million. I know that you're all very familiar with the fact that our current local appropriation is only $6.7 million, and so a reduction much more than where we are now gets us dangerously close to the minimum that's required by the state. And so what I recommended, this board had requested $6.9 million from the city for next year. I recommend that we adjust that appropriation request down to $6,586,000. Additionally, we project that because of the expenses that we will not incur due to closing our school buildings early, keep in mind, we've not saved a lot of personnel costs because we're continuing to provide instruction. But we will have some operational savings. We anticipate that we'll have $125,000 around that amount that we will not spend this year out of this year's budget, and we would carry that forward to the city to use for next year's budget. Additionally, because of the stimulus money that we're receiving through the CARES Act, we also project that we can return another $100,000 to the city based on reimbursements we'll receive through the CARES Act. So what that basically means is that we, with the state budget cuts and our reduction in the funding we receive from the city, we had to adjust our overall budget for next year. Keep in mind that we would be carrying some money forward from one budget year to the next. Had to come up with $555,000. So in order to get to that, 80% of our budget is tied up in salaries and personnel and benefits, and so we had to go to that point. So I do recommend that we remove the 1% salary increase that we were going to provide for all staff. We were also going to add an additional 50 cents per hour to our hourly positions. In order to balance the budget, we will have to remove that as well. The city had provided funding for 2 additional maintenance positions that we hired on this year. We will have to remove those 2 maintenance positions from the budget. I had recommended that we add an elementary dean assistant principal at Van Pelt. That position has been, would have to be removed from our budget request. We'd also tried to restore the remainder of our state lottery funds and use that for capital. We won't be able to restore the full lottery amount again. And we also have removed purchasing a new bus from that. By making those adjustments, that helps us get to the point that we would need to do to get that if the city were to approve our new appropriation request of $6.5 million. As you can see, at 6.5, we're dangerously close to what's going to be required the following year of 6.3. And I also will note, we also, in addition to required local effort and required local match, we also have to meet on the federal level a maintenance of effort. We were within $35,000 of meeting maintenance of effort last budget year, and by making this significant reduction in next year's budget, we very well may not meet maintenance of effort. And what that means is however short we are in meeting maintenance of effort, say we're $50,000 short in meeting that from a local standpoint, we would have to return that same amount to the feds for the federal money. So, we're in dire straits as we balance this budget. We certainly understand the position that our locality and other localities across the Commonwealth and the nation are in. But I will say we were already at as small an appropriation as we could possibly stand. And as we were trying to make our teacher salaries, our support staff salaries more competitive, it pains me to make those recommendations because we were really starting to gain some ground and make some headway in providing competitive wages. I guess the bright spot in all of this is we had already turned in our paperwork to the local choice, and so the reduction in our insurance rates will stand, and so the teachers won't have a net decrease in pay next year due to that. Our teachers and staff will take our insurance will not have a net decrease in pay. Again, our focus will be as soon as the economy recovers that we get back on schedule and getting our teacher salaries and our support staff salaries more competitive. We believe that we have the best staff in the Commonwealth. If you don't believe it, all you have to do is look at the work that's happened in our division since March 13th. I dare say that nobody has done it better than the city of Bristol. I couldn't be prouder of our staff, and I can assure you, regardless of what this budget cycle brings to us, we will work even harder in the future to make sure that we take care of our people.
Yeah, I think that when you mentioned about how well our teachers and our staff have done, I've been talking to my daughter in California, and she she can't believe everything that we're doing because they're not doing half of what we're doing, and they should be. But so anyway, yeah, you're right.
It's just painful to know that we can't, everything that's happened, the way our staff and teachers have stepped up this spring and gone way above and beyond. Now we have to remove the salary increase, and that hurts. It really does.
Yeah, it really pains me. I mean, we've made such great strides trying to make our competitive pay scale, and staff is most of our budget, and knowing that we were going that direction is good, but this virus has definitely made us step back and look at this thing, and so we're in worse shape than what we thought we would be in. But I guess the most important thing is hopefully we can get this by without the F word, and nobody wants to hear that, and I've heard that across the city as that goes, but nobody's going to lose their job.
No, sir. Our budget does not. Now, some folks may have to be transferred. The maintenance positions that we've hired may have to work for us in a different department. We do have some openings that we'll be able to absorb that with. We could use the CARES Act money to give that 1% raise, but then there's no money in the next year to give it, and then we would be operating in a budget deficit. The state and the feds have both recommended that you not use CARES Act money to increase salaries. They do hope that you'll use CARES Act money to make sure nobody loses their job. And that's what we fully intend to do.
Well, and that was the F word, was furlough.
Yes, sir.
And you can't tell me that we can't lay teachers off. We need every teacher we've got, and just to make what we're doing, because I mean we got a great staff. I just hate that we won't be able to compensate them this year. So hopefully, once we get our feet on the ground and running again, then we'll get back to where we're at and make up for it.
Absolutely. That I fully intend to make sure that happens.
Have you presented this to VEA, discussed it with them? Because I really don't think they're going to be expecting a lot. I think the way they've kicked in is where they are of the whole situation. I don't think they're going to think they'll understand a lot more this year than they did last year or the year before.
Yeah, anytime that we have these, we talk to VBA leadership, and then they get the word out to the membership.
And I hate going backwards, but I mean, there's really there's no choice this year, and you know, we have not given raises before with just because we couldn't, and but I think the last couple of years we worked really hard to get our salary scale competitive. We worked really hard to get our teachers more money, and I think they understand the position we're at and the position that the country's in. And it's just not us. It's nationwide, and you know, everybody's having to sacrifice a bit. So and hopefully we'll move through this and come out stronger, and you know, we can get back on track next budget cycle.
Well, how confident are you that the city manager's going to accept this 6.5?
I don't know how he's not accepted. That's about as confident as I am. You know, really, it doesn't make good sense to not accept that, because next year, they're going to have to find that money again for the next budget cycle. So they would be operating in a deficit right from the get-go if they cut us much below where they are. If we have, and I anticipate new residents coming to the city of Bristol. We have very affordable housing, as you know, a multitude of affordable housing. I anticipate our enrollment going up. If our enrollment goes up, the city's contribution will also go up. And as we're cutting it that close, I just can't imagine that we would go lower than. It's going to be hard. It's going to be hard to make it just where we are. If we cut any lower than that, number one, it's going to be difficult to operate. But number two, gas prices going up, electricity prices going up, a cold winter, anything like that can knock your budget out of balance. And we are that close to being below the state required amount.
So what? Again, I just knowing the history here, I'm sure you guys have thought about if that's not accepted and we're asked to cut more. What does that look like?
Well, we've cut to the bone. We're in the marrow next.
I know, but given what's going on over there, I can see him saying, you know, have to cut another 100,000, or you know, have to cut.
That's why I think that's an important, by May 19th, that you vote for candidates who support strong public education.
Here.
Amen. Well, you know, I know everybody's got to do their part, and I know we argue over dollars back and forth every year on the budget, and so hopefully our teachers are understanding and realize that, you know, we got to do our part, and it's got to come from somewhere, and we're trying to take it from several different places. Like I said, everybody's got to do their part somewhat.
Yeah, and if you look, what we recommended for the reductions, I'm going to say all. Every bit of it, except for the restoration of lottery to capital, was all new spending. We eliminated any new spending in order to get sacrifice. Really, that's the hardest part is our teachers, especially the way that they've reacted to this virus and how they've stepped up and completely changed the way they do work, completely changed the way they deliver instruction. And it really bothers me that we're not able to give them, even 1% raises was not a great amount, but it was something.
Yeah.
That really bothers me, but we'll get it back. We will get it back somehow, some way. We'll find a way to make it work, and we'll get it back.
And let me clarify, I said teachers earlier,
Yep.
but our teachers are the meat and potatoes because we're a school system and they do learn, but this is straight across the board. This is our whole staff. I mean, we've got people at the central office, we've got aides, we've got cafeteria workers. I mean, everybody's stepped up and done their part during this, and I hate that, even though they may feel compensated right now, there may be a chance that they won't be compensated the way that we were looking at compensating them next year. So I hate that that's happening. It's just not the teachers,
Yes,
it's
sir.
everybody involved.
Yes, sir.
Okay, next up is item 6, public comment. Do we have any?
Let me check my email again to make sure that I didn't receive any. At this point, I have not received any. I've got a lot of emails since the meeting started, none for public comment, sir.
Okay, that takes us to closed session. Mr. Cameron?
Mr. Chairman, I move pursuant to section 2.2-3711A1 of the Code of Virginia, I move that the board convene a closed meeting for the purpose of discussing the following matters. Discussion of personnel is authorized by section 2.2-3711A1 of the Code of Virginia. Specifically, discussion of certain personnel, recommendations for employment, resignations, and retirements.
So,
Ms. Jones?
Mr. Alpha?
Yes.
Mr. Cameron?
Yes.
Mr. Foster?
Yes.
Mr. White?
Yes.
Mr. Fletcher?
Yes. Okay, thank you.
So I was going to show y'all, the middle school has been printing some 3D models and the straps that we put the